Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network. Great to have you with us on the program today. As mentioned, John Elmo, our guest on the show, a distinguished fellow at the American Institute of Interior Design. He's been active in the design world for the past 58 years, been featured in leading interior design magazines and books, and the author of the new book, Room for Enjoyment. John, welcome to This Week in America. Great to have you with us on the program.
Thank you, Rick. It's great being with you.
Well, I love the book, Room for Enjoyment. We're going to talk about some interior design, and then we'll get specifically to the book. And I sort of see it as HGTV meets a Lifetime movie. I mean, this really gives you some tips on interior design, and it's a great storyline as well. And we will get to that during the course of the program. I want to go back and talk about all your years of experience and how it's changed over the last decades. How different is it today now in designing interiors for clients?
Gosh, that's an interesting question. How different it was then as it is now, I would say, is that more individuals are alert to design. The general public, I'm speaking of.
Yes.
More alert to design, and it's less a refined, particular clientele that you may have had, who may have been a little more of the wealthy.
Well, yeah, and is it a case where maybe a little bit of knowledge maybe is a little dangerous in cases? I mean, everybody picks up the magazines now. They're on websites looking at different interior design. They watch, I joked about HGTV, but we see so many of those shows. Everybody has ideas. Does everybody come to the table now pretty much with a conception of what they want?
Half and half.
Yeah.
I really can't say that people come to you and know exactly what they want. Some people do, of course. They're very sure of themselves. Others have a lot of different diverse questions and opinions. And the major thing, of course, is budget. If they have a budget to fit what their desires are.
Well, that's interesting when you mention the budget. How, if I'm looking at interior design work, how do I go about establishing a budget? Is that something that I, as the client, should worry about? Or is that something I come to you, the interior designer, and I'm giving you my ideas, and then you come back and give me an idea what it's going to cost?
Both. The client, the designer, to start off, should it's going to be a long relationship with each client. You have quite a long. You don't do it in 1 week or 2 weeks. It's not like a TV show where in 15 minutes you see a transformation of a house. The client has an idea of what they want, but yet it's the designer who tells them what the budget would be for their desires or needs. And then they have to have a meeting of the minds. And I must say, I never took every client I got, and nor do most designers. You have to be very compatible with designers and to give them the deep pleasure that they really need.
Well, it's interesting as you read the book, and it's fiction. It's an excellent book. It's called Room for Enjoyment. The book is available at barnesandnoble.com. It's available Amazon.com. Friesen, that's the publisher, Friesen press.com. We'll talk about the book a little bit later in the program, but as I'm reading that, the lead character in there, Eaton Downing, I'm surprised at the amount of time when you talk about that. Yeah, this is not something, because you're used to seeing these things wrapped up in maybe 30 or 60-minute episodes. And this takes a long time. There's a lot of give and take. There are a lot of, I guess you do a lot of your work in pencil, so you go back and make changes. So it really is an ongoing process, isn't it?
It's a very detailed, ongoing process. Sometimes you could accomplish a project that's requested in a short time, but that's maybe 1 room, 2 rooms. But I've had clients for years, and we kept clients happy over the years with changes or other refinements that had to be done.
You know, I've mentioned it several times. I want to get your opinion on all of the shows that we see out there on HGTV in particular, but there are fine living channels that have a number of programs on with remodeling, interior design, that type of thing. And we all know the programs where the designer comes in, the homeowner comes in, and everybody has that ooh ah moment, and everybody cries and
Yeah.
cries and hugs and whatever. What do
Yeah.
you think of that, and how close is that to reality?
Well, it's not close to reality at all, because the client is aware as you're progressing with each project, and with each room or fabric or wallpaper or carpeting or furniture piece that you're choosing. They already know it, and they may ooh and ah and say, "Oh, I love that," but that's only in the beginning. At the final job, if you could give deep pleasure to a client, they smile, and they appreciate it, and they open their house to all their friends, and have the friends admire.
You know, it's interesting when you watch the program. It's sort of like you guys go off to Guatemala for the weekend. You come back and I'll have the place all done. How important is it to actually to have that input from? And you mentioned that you're sort of again, you're working with them every step of the way. How important is
Absolutely.
it for the customer to actually give you input as you're moving through the process?
Yeah. Otherwise, what all you're doing is a stage set. And it's very easy to do a stage set. I love doing stage sets, and I did an awful lot of them for manufacturers to show off their products in magazines or in shows. However, uh, that's not that's not working with a client. It's a hands-on job to give deep pleasure to a client, and the success is at the end of a finished product. But usually projects aren't ever finished. There are always changes slightly made, new technology with the computers. So you have changes in computer rooms, and of where you want to place them and so forth.
John Elmo is our guest on This Week in America. The book is called Room for Enjoyment. It's a fiction. It's available all across the country in ebook form as well. You can go to Amazon.com, FriesenPress.com. That's the publisher, FRIESEN Press.com. Also to BarnesandNoble.com. And of course, all that information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You know, it's interesting when John, I look at your career, and I mentioned in the beginning, it goes back like 58 some years that you've been actually doing this. And it's such a varied career, and you worked not only basically in every corner of the United States, but all across the world as well. How difficult is it when you go into a situation? I mean, what works in New York in terms of interior design might not work in High Point, North Carolina. How difficult is it to localize and for the designer to understand sort of local customs, local taste when he goes in to work for a client?
You have to interview the client more and know more about their background and their goals. But an awful lot of my work, besides working with clients around the world, individual clients I'm speaking of, is working with governments. I worked with the Italian government in 1985, designing furniture for export that was shown at Promoseda, which is a show in Milan held every year, and which was very successful. They invited five United States designers to design chairs, and I was one of them.
You know, it's interesting. You also in Havana, and I'm fascinated by Cuban culture, and it's opening up a little bit more now. What was it like? I think you did a U.S. Interest section in Havana.
In the United States interest section in Havana, yes, that's correct. I was asked to redesign a room that was used as a sounding off room for Cuban individuals who wanted to come to America, of what to expect in America, and how America lived and so forth.
Was this in the early Castro days?
That had to be in the 20 years ago, 15.
Oh, yeah, that probably would have been Castro at that point.
Well, that was, of course, after Castro. That was with Castro, after Batista.
Yes. Well, we're going back a few years with that, and I can remember watching that when Castro took over the country, watching television and seeing the news reports come in on that. John Elmo was our guest on the program. Room for Enjoyment, the book, and I want to talk a little bit about that, because normally they say when you start writing a book like this, it's somewhat autobiographical. I mentioned the lead in the book, Eaton Downing. How much of that is you in there, and how much of that is based on your career?
Well, all of the book is a fiction, a day-to-day version of an interior design office. And the designer, who of course is a hero.
Yes, of course.
And a well-known designer was asked to design a house in Portersville Mountain, which is not in New York State, but it's supposed there isn't any Portersville in New York State. There is in Pennsylvania, I think. But not, and asked to design a palatial estate for his 28-year-old chorus girl bride. His name was Moses Abrams. Now, Moses, at the time of Batista, ran the largest casino in Havana, and that's a lot of my knowledge of. That's in the book of that era, of course, came with my experiences that I had in Cuba.
And it's interesting, he wants 8 different bedrooms, themed bedrooms, so that he can work out some of his fantasies there. So all of a sudden, Eaton is trying to come up with all these different themed bedrooms for Moses.
Yeah, well, you never know what clients want. I never had a client who wanted 8 bedrooms, of course, but I wanted to bring in different periods and different concepts of how you could have or give contentment for husband and wife, or whatever bedmates they are.
That, yes.
At night. And so he came to me, but Dolly, the 28-year-old bride, didn't care about that. She only cared about dresses. She wanted to have the period dresses. So I brought in a fashion designer who I had known from school, who was married to an old friend of mine, who was a great fashion designer, and she did all of the costumes. And so I describe all of the costumes of the periods, different periods. You had Marie Antoinette, Madame de Pompadour, Cleopatra, the circus, things like this.
All of that is in the book Room for Enjoyment. It's available in ebook form as well as the regular book form. It's available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, the publisher FriesenPress.com. In the book, and actually when you're reading this, you're getting some interior design information and tips, and there's a glossary at the end of the book. So if there's some terms that's used in there and you want to go take a look at them, it gives you a little bit of education as well as entertainment as you're going along. John, we've got just a couple minutes left in the program. Something that you hear people talking about more is using green technology, green design. How is that fitting into to what designers are doing overall now?
Well, overall, now you have to know more about green than, of course, you did in the 70s, 1976, when that supposedly that story evolved in the book. It evolved in 1976. Green design was just becoming to be prominent. Green design, as you know, uh, uh, is has to be very educational, and it's save the universe, and without being blasé about it or phony, of how to improve the environment, which we should all do.
The book, and unfortunately, we're out of time. We'll have to have John back on another program. So much more to talk about here. It's an excellent book. It's called Room for Enjoyment. I mentioned in the beginning, it's sort of HGTV meets a Lifetime movie. You'll get some interior design. You've got a great story, got a great ending to the book, which we're not going to give away.
Well, that's a surprise ending, yes.
Yes, yeah. You got to stay for the end, and you will. And you've got to get there quickly because you're going to go, wow, I didn't see that coming. The book is called Room for Enjoyment. John, thank you joining us on This Week in America. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Look forward to having you back. And the book, again, is available all across the country. Information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You're listening to This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network.